A feature on ESPN.com has Deandre Ayton taking heat. Is he once again a bust, or is there still time for him to reclaim the season? That's next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers your first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, no matter how or where you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple. Maybe you're one of the 37,000 plus subscribers to the Locked On Lakers YouTube channel. Andy, no matter how you do it, you are part of making the Locked On Podcast Network number one in this or any other known universe. I'm Brian Kamenetsky with Andy Kamenetsky, who covers the Lakers for nearly 20 years with ESPN, with the LA Times, with The Athletic. And in that time, Andy, we've covered some colorful characters, but very few of them, to my knowledge, have alter egos or do cartwheels or drink out of water bottles that are labeled crunk juice. But that is Deandre Ayton, according to a new story from ESPN. The story came out on Thursday. Lakers play Thursday night. We're recording this for Friday, but we haven't watched Ayton play on Thursday in Phoenix. We don't know if he's going to play well, if he's going to play poorly. That's actually kind of the point, is that his performance is inconsistent. It's sort of all over the place. All of those things we mentioned in there in this story from Dave McMenamin about Deandre Ayton. He is getting just tremendous amounts of pile on. The thing that is, I think, gotten the most attention was a scene that Dave describes after the Orlando game, in which, by the way, Ayton played great. So he, in the locker room after the game, heading in the showers, yells, obviously loud enough to be heard. And for people who don't understand, like, if you're yelling stuff in the locker room and the reporters are there, it is fair game for the reporters to write down and observe what they're seeing. He wasn't trying to be quoted, but he wasn't also not trying to be quoted. The quote, as Dave reports, that they're trying to make me Clint Capela. Ayton said, referring to the Houston Rockets now backup center, who a decade ago made his impact as a lob-catching, rim-running big on a team that made it to 2 conference finals. I'm not no Clint Capela, Ayton says. And this quote has made the rounds, and it has Ayton is getting hammered for it. And I have my thoughts, Andy, but what are yours?
Well, to begin, one of the big thoughts that I have is that I highly recommend people read the entire piece rather than focus just on the poll quotes or the poll paragraphs. And I'm not saying those paragraphs or quotes don't matter. As we're going to get into, I think in a lot of ways, they are instructive for maybe some bigger picture things going on with Deandre Ayton, or some of the things that prevent Deandre Ayton from reaching what people at least initially thought was his ceiling when he was drafted number 1 overall. Like this piece, for example, there is a lot in it about what Deandre Ayton has done well this season, like including some of the grunt work stuff that Deandre Ayton is not associated with at all. Ayton has also been disappointing on other fronts throughout the season, particularly since 2026 rolled around. And I think this piece illustrates, and we'll get into it, how the overarching issue for Deandre may be that he is just a very mercurially quirky guy who either can't or maybe won't read the room.
Yeah, and this quote, the Capela thing, I am assuming he doesn't mean Clint Capela in his prime, 10 years ago, Clint Capela, who was a very good player, by the way. I think he thinks he's probably saying that more thinking of Clint Capela now. But I don't know. But either way, the problem with that, as it's been perceived, is like, well, the qualities of Clint Capela are kind of, especially prime Clint Capela, are what the Lakers could use now. Capela was a great rim protector. He was an excellent rebounder, good vertical threat when he was at his peak, and known as a guy who was defensive oriented and all these other things. Not a scorer, generally gets all of his points with dunks and lobs and things like that. That kind of center would be great for the Lakers this season. And, in some ways, Ayton, we talked about at the beginning of the season, kind of talked about doing a lot of that stuff, even though it was well outside his career performance to this point. Not that Ayton's been a bust, like totally unproductive Anthony Bennett style, but where he has excelled, it's been as an offensive player, a guy who could put up 20 points when you need it, a good rebounder, but not necessarily a rim protector, that kind of thing. So the profile is very different from Clint Capela, who happens to be the type of center that would benefit the Lakers right now.
Well, and the Capela quote, in a lot of ways, I think encapsulates, what he thinks he can do, like the best ways to help winning, but also where I think he's got some blind spots, or again, just doesn't read the room. Like if you are asking broadly for Deandre Ayton to be Clint Capela as a primary role, like that's why you're bringing him in. That's the expectation. That is both unrealistic.
It's like telling Luka, we need you to be Lou Dort.
Right.
It's just, that's not a thing.
But it's also a mistake if that's the vision. However, though, in some games over the course of 82, Deandre Ayton is going to be asked to enthusiastically imitate Clint Capela, whichever the hell version he's thinking of, because that's what the game requires. And these are the things he's talked about doing. Either way, and this really gets to the problem, Deandre Ayton does not have the agency right now at this stage of his career to say that quote out loud. Like,
you can think
what
it. Don't say
the
it.
F. Yeah, what? It's probably not great if he's thinking it, but saying it, saying it. And to your point, you said earlier, he's been around the league long enough to recognize the pitfalls of saying that out loud. So either he doesn't care or he wasn't thinking it through, which
I think is really the root of the issue.
Right.
After the break,
what could he possibly gain from yelling that?
I have an answer to that question. And I will also tell people, because we're talking about Ayton as a bust again, based on this. And I will explain why people are framing that question way off, to the detriment of Ayton and the Lakers. We'll do all that next.
Locked on Lakers is brought to you by DoorDash. The season's heating up, and DoorDash has a way to keep fans in their bag the whole way through, whether you're watching the highlights, the tunnel fits, or just your favorite player. DoorDash makes the entire season more fun. Every player has their bag. With DoorDash, fans can have one too. DoorDash keeps your snacks stocked, the gear fresh, and your watch party vibes on point. Now, there are nights your team's going to stress you out. Laker fans understand this lately, unfortunately. Let DoorDash become the post-game therapy. Sometimes you need dessert, your comfort food now, or snacks, or the post-game beverage, or to send a phone charger to the friend that's always at 2%. But this is your ritual. After the game, you always text back and forth. You need the ritual to continue. From tip-off to overtime, stay in your bag, order on DoorDash. Keep the snacks, drinks, and gear, whatever gets you through the season, delivered right to your door. DoorDash in your bag all season long.
Locked on Lakers also brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Welcome to the 5 Hour Energy flavor draft with 18 flavors to choose from, including new options like confetti craze, fruity rainbow, cotton candy, and Shirley crunk juice. The joke's really, it's a great day for crunk juice.
Just to make it clear, 5 Hour Energy does not offer crunk juice.
For crunk juice. They do
that
not.
We're aware of.
Maybe there's a 19th coming. I'm not sure.
It's a sleeper. It's definitely a sleeper in this draft.
Undrafted free agent crunk juice. I've got my number one pick for the 5 Hour Energy flavor draft.
Could be the next Austin Reeves. Who knows?
They're going to sign him and develop crunk juice, and then he'll become an all-star. Cherry is mine. It's a bold cherry candy style flavor. You get you know what I'm talking about. It's not like actual cherries, but like that candy flavor for cherries, but still has that little tart edge that cherries have. Plus, that it's like red. It gives you that real good cherry red thing, so you're drinking cherry flavor. I appreciate that. So that's where I'm going on my board. 5 Hour Energy gives you a boost with zero sugar. It has a lot of upcoming flavor innovation planned. maybe there is a crunk juice flavor coming. I don't know. Find your new favorite flavor of 5-Hour Energy shots available online at 5hourenergy.com or at Amazon.
Locked On Lakers is brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like being in an NBA arena, the crowd, the energy, the moment, seeing it in person. Getting tickets, though, that part has not always been so simple. And that's why Game Time has been the go-to app for scoring tickets fast without the hassle. It puts the advantage back where it belongs with you, the fans. Regain your power. You can pull up the Game Time app, pick an upcoming NBA game, and you got tickets locked in within minutes. And the all-in price up front. There's no surprise fees at the checkout. There's no, wait, what the hell was this charge? Game Time has features like seat views that makes the decision easy before buying, especially with an app that's super user-friendly and super user-intuitive. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. And remember, it's gametime.co, not .com.
One of the great ironies of this situation that he yelled out Clint Capela. He was available this offseason. The Rockets end up getting him in a sign and trade. They gave him, I think, a little about $22 million over a 3-year contract. Now, do I know if the Lakers exactly I don't know where they got on Capela. He was a name that we talked about a lot heading into the offseason. But the Lakers weren't going to give Capela 3 years. The fact that Ayton is on this team is in part related to the idea that they didn't have money to go get a higher end center. Luke Cornett signed for $11 million a year. The Lakers couldn't have afforded him either. We talked a lot at the beginning of the year about how Ayton was going to be viewed and how Ayton should be viewed. This story and the way people are reacting to it tells me that he is still being evaluated on the scale of former number 1 overall pick Deandre Ayton and his opportunity to show that he can finally focus that talent and become part of something and put the doubters, when I get a lot of the reaction to it, I think there are a lot of people who are looking at it that way, as opposed to for the Lakers, what has he been able to do compared to the alternatives and for the money? And for that, he's been kind of up and down and good. They're better off with him than without him. And they really need to figure out a way that they can maximize what he does, because they win when he is productive.
Well, look, I can't speak to how everybody is, the royal everybody is evaluating Deandre Ayton now. I am seeing a lot of, and maybe these are two sides of the same coin. They all lead to the same place. I am seeing a lot of fans and even media not so much evaluating this through the prism of will he ever live up to being a number 1 overall pick. What I'm seeing a lot of is the idea of you have an opportunity in front of you to at minimum prove you are serious. Like you are serious about doing things that lead to winning. And case in point, which I think is where Deandre Ayton can be kind of his own worst enemy, both in terms of inconsistency with play, sometimes lack of attentiveness, particularly defensively, or a lack of energy over the course of an entire game or entire
right. And it comes in. Dave talks about even guys on the team. Marcus Smart talks about that. It's just not not consistent enough.
But it overshadows how, and the piece points this out, the work that Ayton has done, for example, as a screener in Dave's piece. He has set 15.7 on-ball screens per game for Luka Doncic, the 3rd most among duos to run 200 or more plays this season. According to ESPN research, he has also averaged 3.7 screen assists, a pick that leads directly to a player making a field goal this season, the 4th most in the league. Quote, he does a great job creating contact and knocking defenders off to allow playmakers to make plays, a team source told ESPN. And it's something that, frankly, he's been pretty committed to. And things like that, you have to watch this in order to know that it's happening. If you're just looking at the raw numbers, you're not going to appreciate what Ayton does. But that interaction with, the Capela quote and some of the general goofiness, or, the idea that they went out and made dominating t-shirts with the lion and stuff like that as a specific motivating force for DeAndre Ayton, it raises the question of whether or not he recognizes what those screening moments mean and how important they are to being seen as a winner. Like, I wonder if he really does not read his situation well enough, and like what ultimately, because he said at his introductory press conference, pretty, I thought, convincingly, he has said he does not like the perception of being seen as a non-winning player, or the idea of not being a part of basketball that matters. If DeAndre Ayton can't embrace the idea, like truly embrace the idea of, you know what, for 4 or 5 games, I got to channel my inner Clint Capela, and I get it, and I got to go out there and do it, and I have to just trust that it will be appreciated and that it will help the perception of me, and I can find in that the rewards, then unfortunately it feels right now like DeAndre Ayton is not cashing in on, I mean, literally or monetarily.
I'm so glad you said that, because
he has a massive opportunity in front of him with this season. And Ayton, I think he has a real chance of falling out of the league after this contract, because comments like the Capela thing are going to make, I think, teams around the league believe he will not do whatever role is asked of him.
Correct.
Like if he's needed as a backup, he won't do it.
He's a bad candidate to be a backup. There's no question. But you're right. To your point before, like, is this the other side of the coin? Yes, this is exactly, I think, the other side of the coin. Because they are two separate questions. Is DeAndre Ayton taking advantage of the opportunity in front of him and recognizing the opportunity and doing all that stuff in the best interests of his own career? No, he is not. And I think at this point, he's not capable to, like you were talking about, like, you can say the right things. And I don't think he knows how. I think at this point, it's pretty clear he just doesn't understand, or have that thing in you that makes you really, say, you know what, I there's a 20% here of attention of this, or that, whatever, that I'm not tapping into that I need to. And I need to develop the discipline to do it every day. He doesn't have that. I think it's pretty clear. It's a separate question from, has he been helpful to the Lakers this year? Has he been worth $8 million? Has he been better than any other $8 million center that they were going to be able to find? So the answer to the first question, has he been like disappointing to himself? Yeah. Has he hit the upside that I hoped he would hit? No, not on a consistent basis. Has he been good for the Lakers overall for $8 million? In my mind, yes. And the proof of that, when he is performing at a higher level, when he gets his 15 and 10 and things like that, the Lakers almost never lose. And it's not been 1 game or 2 games or 3 games. It's been like 20 of them or close to it. So if you said that if you could drum up statistics like that about any other $8 million player in the league, you'd say that guy's been a success. This is the problem of the world that Ayton lives in, and breaking it down. And I think it's fascinating, but he might not. But anyway, we will have plenty of.
I don't know if he's aware enough to find it fascinating.
I don't know if he is or he isn't. But I did notice Dave opens with that play, the final play where Luka passed up the shot against Orlando, and the thing that people might have missed on that play is Ayton screens everyone on that play to get Luka loose. Anyway, leave us questions, comments, your thoughts about Ayton, whether or not you think he's been successful, what the other thing Dave points out, the Lakers need to figure out how to get the most out of him this year, because as he says, and we note, when he plays well, they win.
Like a lot of things that are complicated, it doesn't change the fact that they do need to involve him more on a regular basis if you even want to get the most out of an imperfect version of DeAndre Ayton.
Yeah, we said at the beginning of the season, if he was exactly who he's been throughout his entire career, which is kind of what he's done, then the Lakers, he'd still be better than what the Lakers had last year. And I absolutely still think that's true. Anyway, Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can hang out with over 37,000 subscribers to the channel. We'll see everyone next time.